This is the World Innovators Podcast with your host, Donna Peterson.
What kind of an impact could you make in your company if you executed on one of the marketing strategies we discussed in the last episode? Hi, my name is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the World Innovators Podcast, where I talk to people in marketing all over the world about the best strategies to implement and how to execute them for B2B brands. As you heard in the beginning, this is a two-part series. This is part two. The first part was on strategy. And I went back over 15 episodes that we did, and I pulled a strategy from each one of my guests. And we talked about those, but now it's about how do you execute them? So before we start to talk about executing, let's just quickly recap some of the strategies we discussed. The first one, building communities or fan base. This is one of the best ways to really start to create relationships with your prospects. I just read a great book by David Meerman Scott. It's called Fanocracy. And he is talking about that community and creating fans. And so if you have a chance, read that book. It's great insight into these communities. The next tip was how we are in an age of self-education. They call it sometimes the self-education revolution. So it's about how, as a company, you need to be giving out more and more information to educate people about your product, about your industry, about anything that's really going on that would be of importance to them. Just give out the information and help them make the decision. So many people now do so much research before they will ever contact a company and start inquiring on buying their product or service. So self-education. The third one is pinpoint a specific audience. You know, gone are the days of just sending out mass promotions, or for myself, years ago, my big thing was I wanted to do marketing blogs. So I wrote marketing blogs that were very general. And I noticed I didn't get a lot of comments or feedback. It wasn't until I started to really make my blog specific for my audience, so that B2B specific niche audience, did I finally get the comments and feedback that I was looking at for my blog. So if you want to be successful, make sure you specialize. The fourth thing was content is king. We heard this from an industry publisher. We all know content is king. If you don't offer good content, people won't be attracted to your website, and then they won't be interested in your product or service. So they gave three things. They said, I'm forgetting at the top of my head. They said, find it, filter it, and format. So find the content that is appropriate, filter it to make sure it is right for your target audience, and format it so that it's easily digestible. You know, we only have a few seconds to get people's attention. So you got to make sure it's online with what they want to hear, and that it is formatted in a way that they can tell right away what it's about and how it will help them. So that was content is king. Now, the next one is everyone always heads towards the shiny object. And of course, social media, you know, a lot of people, LinkedIn, Facebook, this, that. But don't forget that sometimes your traditional marketing channels that you had been using in the past are still viable channels. Now, don't get me wrong. Social posting is still a great way to complement your traditional marketing channels. I think it's always good to have a 360-degree view across several different channels. And what that does is it gives your company more validity, but it also just reinforces your messages to these individuals so that, as we mentioned earlier, if they're educating themselves, they get more information to educate themselves so that they decide that they need your product or service. Next thing is don't discount print. I know we've all heard, first it was radio is dead, and now lately direct mail is dead, and all you need is inbound, not the, you know what? Nothing is dead. Everything comes back around. And right now, more than ever, print is standing out more than some of the digital channels just because they're so inundated with messages. A print message can definitely stand out, but talk about reinforcing your brand and giving you validity. People know, if I thought maybe I had a mail piece here around me, that if they get a mail piece, that the company really spent a lot of time in creating it, in printing it, mailing it, and having a good list to mail it to. So it is expensive for a company to do this, as you know. And so the individual who's getting it knows that, you know what, this company's not messing around. They really are at this address and they really do want my business. So a print piece can definitely do great things for your brand in reinforcing all your digital messaging. Next thing is personalized videos. Talk about building a relationship. If you give someone a nice personalized video about what they're interested in, they're going to resonate and they're going to go to your website and check out what you have. Now, when I talk about personalized videos, they can be done in two ways. You can do it as a regular one-on-one email to an individual. So for instance, if I was checking in with someone after going to a trade show, I might send them a quick video by saying, "Dear Tom, it was so great to meet you at the Marketing Profs show. We talked about so many interesting things. I loved hearing about your kids doing lacrosse, whatever it is. And you also told me that you had a need for marketing services. So I thought I'd follow up with you. If you want to talk soon, please feel free to give me a call," and end it there. That's a short little personalized message one-on-one to that individual. Or when I say personalized, it could be to a specific segment, and that way you can use the video out to a larger group. For instance, doing a pain point. Say, "Dear and so, I noticed that the pharmaceutical industry is increasing or is very hot right now, very busy because of the increase in developing the vaccine, shipping the vaccine, the logistics of it all. I have some great marketing lists that can help you out in this pharmaceutical area." You can list them down and then you end the video there. Again, it's another personalized way. It resonates with them, so they're going to listen to it. People do have a tendency to listen and open up and watch a video much more than they will read through a lot of copy. So try a personalized video. The next is to recognize the benefits of virtual events and capitalize on them. Now, we sat down with Harvard and they were telling us about the benefits they found from virtual events. They came across benefits I didn't think about. Like, yes, I realize that with virtual events, you're able to have more people attend your events because they don't have to be out of the office. You don't have to worry about travel expenses. But the part that I wasn't thinking about was how it gave a voice to maybe the people who might be a little shyer, who don't like to talk up, or maybe they're there all alone, where you have the larger groups that are there and they all talk. So I didn't really think about that side of it. And that is something you can benefit from when you do your virtual events. The next thing are podcasts. Ta-da! Podcasts. In that interview with my guest, Meryl, she described how a podcast can help you in different ways. A podcast can definitely enhance your brand, but it can also attract leads and it can show you as a thought leader in your space. But as she mentioned, make it entertaining and make it valuable. If it's not valuable and I just sat here talking to you about everything that happened in my day, Oh my gosh, I don't even want to listen about what happened in my day, let alone you. So you've got to make sure that the people who are reading it or watching your video, listening to your podcast are of interest with that material. So for us, this podcast, the only people that are going to be interested in it are people who are in B2B marketing. So always, always keep in mind with all your marketing initiatives, who are you speaking to? Who is that target audience? Now I'm starting up a marketing course where we'll be talking about how to dive in deeper to that target audience. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please feel free to send me an email. You can send it to dpeterson@worldinnovators.com. But now let's jump into executing. Now, all those strategies I mentioned in the beginning, if you're like me, it's like, yes, yes, yes. I want to do all those things. I want to do everything I can to promote my company out to the right audience to increase sales. At the end of the day, everything we do in marketing is to increase sales. But you have to remember, marketing is all about little pieces. They're little pieces that we put together that accumulate into this great messaging that builds trust with your prospects so that you can form a relationship with them and then they buy your product or service. But think more about giving versus just selling. People don't want to be bombarded with messages. It used to be like that old, going to shop for a car or a used car salesman be like, you need this car. It's the best car ever. Just buy it. Just buy it. Just buy it. But that's not the case. And we're not going to sit here and scream saying, you've got to have this product. That's not how you do it either. It is now all about building that trust. And for me, it's giving out information. And so here we are executing. So after you've said, yes, 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 you want to do it all, the problem is that most companies don't execute all of their strategies and goals. And why is that? One, they have too many, so they don't know where to start and they're overwhelmed. Two, they don't have any goals really set. So again, they can't execute it because they don't have any. Or three, they keep changing their goals. So they're not quite sure how to execute it because they keep changing it. So if you keep changing the goal, which is like I always say like your North Star where you're heading, and you keep changing it, you don't know what direction to head in. So there's a statistic I found on FranklinCovey, and they say 15%. It's only 15% implement and prioritize their goals. And that is because they have their North Star, their goal set. And so they know the path they need to follow. So if you have a series of goals, this is what I suggest you do. You go first and you've got to assess where your company is right now. What kind of marketing do you do? What kind of sales are you getting? Do you go to trade shows? Where do you do your marketing? Anything that you can report about where your company is right now, an assessment or a baseline, whatever you want to call it. And then I want you to go and think about your projections. Where do you want to be a year from now? Now, I do both of these. I have worksheets for these that I go through with clients because they need to sit and really think about each of the individual questions about where they are right now and where they want to go. Where do they project that they want their company to be in 1 year? After you look at those, think about what goal, pick one, start with one. What one goal would help move the needle the most from where your company is right now to where you want it to be? One goal. Now, this takes some thinking to think about this. And so as you go through your goals, make sure that they're SMART goals. And SMART goals are a goal that is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's timely. So don't just say, okay, I have a goal. I want to increase sales. What does that mean? How do you know if you ever reach that goal if all you want to do is increase sales? No, you got to do something like, okay, I want to increase my goals to $200,000 or increase my sales to $200,000 a month by the end of the quarter. So you're saying, you give it that it's timely, you're able to measure it, and you know exactly $200,000 a month in sales. And you want to be able to reach the goal by the end of the quarter. That gives you time. You can't set goals that are not realistic. You can't say, oh, well, you know what? I want to increase sales 200,000 by the end of this month. I'm sitting here on July 14th. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do in 15 days, increase your sales to 200,000. So make sure that when you're looking over your goals, that you create a SMART goal. So now that you have where you want to be a year from now, you have decided on your SMART goal. So now you have your North Star. How do you start to set up the path for that goal? Well, you have the goal and you got to say to yourself, but why is that goal important? Really dive deep into why the goal is important. Because when you do that, that gives it more leverage. It tells you, why do you want it? Do you want to get to $200,000 in sales because then you can purchase this piece of equipment that would increase manufacturing? Or you want to go here because you want to become public? Or, just figure out the why. Why is it? I had to really dig deep into why I wanted to start this podcast. And at first I'm like, oh, well, I did the blanket. Oh, it'll help increase sales. But when I dug deep, I figured out the whole reason why I wanted to do the podcast is I want to educate people on the quality ways of doing B2B marketing. Every day I get emails from different people saying, do you want a list? And they'll say, what title, what industry, what company size? We have a list for you. And I have followed up on some of these inquiries and I say to them, oh, well, what's the source of your list? And they can't tell me a specific source. And then I'll say, well, is it opted in? And one time I heard back, what do you mean by opted in? Oh, right there. That's a source to stay away from. So there are different things that have happened to me. Oh, and another thing that happened is I had a client who had an HTML creative and they needed to make one small change so that we could get it out to the list that we had. But the service that they used wanted to charge them $250 to make a change that I knew would take 5 minutes. So I just want people to be aware that there are quality vendors out there that you can use for your lists to create your creatives that are willing also just to talk to you about your target audience and your objectives, give you some ideas, and it'll give you a place to start. So that's why I started the podcast, but it did a lot of deeping. I had to really dive deep to figure it out because, like I said, at first I was like, oh, increase sales. And then I was like, why am I doing this? I don't have time to be doing this. I have too many other things to do. I don't need to be doing a podcast. But when I dove deep I truly care about the B2B marketing industry. I care about companies that are out there doing it. And I'm sick of seeing companies being taken advantage of, spending way too much money on things that they shouldn't be because they're being gouged and because their messages are not getting in front of the right audience. Now, if your message doesn't get in front of the right audience, it doesn't matter anything else we do. It doesn't matter the content you create, the videos you create, even what goals we set, if you don't get it in front of the right people. So always, no matter anything you are doing, whether you're in marketing or sales, or even if you're just the CEO of the company, always remember who your target audience is. Keep them in mind. We are always talking to them. So dive deep on your why, and that will give you the leverage to follow through with this goal. Next thing, goals are easier achieved if the entire team buys in. Just like a football team. A football team is not going to win if they're not all into the plan. They don't know what is going to go down. They don't know where the pass is going to go. They don't know what tackle to make, what direction they're going to go in. So make sure you have buy-in from the entire team. That means they agree that this goal is one of the most important ones to really move the needle in your company. They also know and understand their role in achieving the goal. And they have gotten or will be getting the most appropriate training or knowledge they need in order to achieve or do the role that they need to achieve the goal. So I again have another buy-in worksheet where it goes through this, make sure everyone is on board that this is an important goal. Make sure that they have the training that they need for the role that they need to do in achieving this goal. Now, you might be saying, Donna, this is great. We set goals, we tell people what they need to do, but we're all too busy with our everyday work. And I totally get that. I am in the same boat. Not only I'm a business owner, but I also handle with the marketing for companies, and I'm also talking to them about their businesses. So I have a lot going on, and I don't really have time to set a new goal. But if we don't set goals every day, it's almost like we're playing defense. We go in, we do the same work, we work with clients, blah, blah. We're never going and bringing our company to the next level. And the only way to stop from doing the everyday work is by making sure that goal is present and visible to everyone. So as you get buy-in from your team members, make sure that they are visually seeing what the goal is every day. Either if you are all in the same workspace, maybe you've got a big poster or a big whiteboard all set up, showing the goal and showing the progress that you're making. Sort of like those fundraisers that they do where you see it looks like a thermometer and you see the red moving up the thermometer showing, how much funds they got. But of course, they're not going to win or achieve their goal until it's all the way up to the top. So whatever you need to do, set up a scorecard, set up a scoreboard. Oh, goodness gracious, couldn't remember that word. Set up a scorecard, set up scoreboard, something that will keep your team all on the same page, seeing the progress that you're making, and to have them stay competitive. Nothing makes an individual want something more than if they think they can win. We all have it in us. We're all very competitive and we all want to win. But if you don't know what you're winning at or what you're trying to achieve, you can't try hard to get it. So make sure that you get that buy-in, you do the buy-in worksheet, but then you have a scorecard or a scoreboard to keep everyone abreast of what is happening, what people are doing, how it is achieving. Like, if the goal is up here, are you heading up that way or are you heading more this way? And what can you change to get yourself up there? Just have that scorecard. And if you can't do all the roles needed in-house to achieve your goal, look for outside agencies or freelancers or something to help you achieve those goals. So let's do a quick recap on the execution part. And if at any time, or if you'd like any of the worksheets I'm talking to you about, please feel free to email me and I will send them to you. So there's the assessment worksheet where you assess where your company is right now. Then it is projection. There's a projection worksheet where you sit and you think about where you want your company to be a year from now. Then you go over goals. What kind of goals could you set to move it from where you are right now to where you want to be next year? And like I said, pick one goal. Don't pick a ton of goals because they won't be achieved. Pick one that is measurable, it's relevant, and it's timely, but it can be attainable. Don't say, oh, I want to be up here. I want to be a $10 million company, by the end of the month. It's not going to happen. So make sure that they're attainable goals and you know what they are. Make sure everyone in the company agrees that this goal will help you all succeed in your job. And so make sure you've got buy-in from these employees. Now, whether you use worksheets that I have, it doesn't matter. You can probably sit and jot it all down yourself. I just put out questions there that I found to be helpful for myself, because being of a small company, it's very easy to say, oh, I know exactly where I'm at. I know exactly where I want to be in the future. But until you put it down in writing and you start to talk about it to your team, it really doesn't get the legs it needs to be achieved. So get the buy-in, hire whoever you need so that you can get the roles completed so that you can achieve those goals. I hope that this information was helpful in you on how you're going to execute the next strategy of marketing so that you can get to the next goal. And I look forward to seeing you or letting you hear me on my next podcast. Please feel free to subscribe. And as I mentioned, if you would like these worksheets or know about the course we have coming up, please feel free to email me at dpeterson, Peterson, @worldinnovators.com. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you for listening to the World Innovators Podcast. For more information about today's topic, email us at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com or call 860-210-8088. And please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode.